Through song and dance, just steps away from the site of suspected graves, the community remembered young lives lost.
So we're here today to honor and to reflect this past year, the very first anniversary of the Little Way, the missing, the children who did not come home.
For some elders who attended the school, the ceremonies today are a way of healing the trauma they endured.
I remember the nuns pulling up their arms like this and coming down and hitting our back. There was 3 of us. And so I didn't want to be here anymore.
Rose Miller was just 8 years old. She tried to run away along the river to reach her parents.
I got back and got punished. They cut my hair off so short all over. I had long braids. And we had to lie on that little beds that they have in there and on our stomach. And they stripped us down and they strapped us.
She says watching children in regalia, expressing the culture she wasn't allowed to know, is a way forward for her community. Indigenous leaders here say they too are looking for a way forward. That includes searching for any further remains on the site. There is federal money to support that work, but the harder question for many is what to do with any remains found on the site.
They should be brought back to their communities because this here was the central place for many children from all over BC, maybe even estates in Alberta.
First Nation leaders say that's a decision that will take time and careful consideration.
I think the focus really needs to be on the survivors and their families so that they can have the space and the voice and the healing they need. And then they can come together to make some of these key and important decisions.
The federal government says it's committed to working with the First Nation communities tied to 140 residential schools.
Healing is not easy. It's a journey and it takes time. And everyone has their own pace, and we will be there with you every step of the way.
And while the path to reconciliation may still be unclear, this community hopes its unity may help pave the way. Brady Strachan, CBC News, to Kamloops to Secwepemc First Nation.
And Renee Filipponi is also in Kamloops. Renee, you've been there at the memorial all day, starting with that sunrise ceremony. But I wanted to ask you about how it ended with comments from the Prime Minister and the chief of the Kamloops to Secwepemc Nation. What stood out to you?
Well, talking to community members all day, they really talked about how they felt there was too much talk from the federal government and not enough action. And that really translated into that press conference today when the Prime Minister was asked questions. He was asked specifically about what the government is doing to help communities like the Kamloops to Secwepemc when it comes to more ground penetrating radar and investigations, healing centers, and also when it comes to, the mental health supports that are needed. He said we will be there with what is needed and that it should be a community-driven project, but there were no specifics from him, nothing new today. So while his visit here was welcomed by some elders giving him hugs and tears and selfies, there were a large sort of vocal group who weren't happy the Prime Minister was here at all. Drums were beating, they were chanting, "Canada is on Indian land. Your constitution is not our constitution." And he was asked specifically about that, and he said, he understands that this community has gone through some incredible trauma, and that yes, there is anger, frustration, mistrust. That is totally legitimate, he said. And if someone needs to yell at someone for it, then they can do that to him. Adrienne?
All right, Renee Filipponi in Kamloops. Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.